Welcome to Set the Trend podcast. You may be wondering why we're here. Well, this is a new thing we're going to do when we do an episode of Set the Trend podcast. We're going to go live for 15 minutes. So welcome if you just logged on, whether on YouTube channel, on Facebook. Welcome to Set the Trend podcast. The boys are back, and this week is an interesting topic this week. Before we get to the interesting topic of the sound system culture, that's right, it's one for the almanacs, for the sound system culture. Before I do that, introduce my very esteemed guest. No, not guest, should I say? I always say guest. It's because you live in the same bubble together. Not really. My very esteemed co-host.
Being a comedian.
I am a comedian. Come on, you know this. Mr. Eastender, wicked man Eastender, and we're still waiting on the wicked to get involved. Are you going to get wicked today? Because you know a lot about our guest today.
Don't try to be smart.
No Trump business over here, son. And Reggie, heavy man Styles.
Yeah, it's
What you
good to be
saying,
back,
bro?
man. Good to be back.
Good?
Yeah, I'm all good.
Are you ready
I
for
was
the
missing
sound
the place.
system thing today?
Of course. Come on, man. You know, my love for sound system runs extremely deep. Being an old sound boy myself, as in, like, you know, box boy, who graduated to being able to have the opportunity to play records on the great Supertone Roadshow, you know,
So this
now
one,
and again.
yeah. And we have one of the kings of the sound system feature there, King Jammies himself, right on our right hand, right on my right hand shoulder here.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I
Rest
mean,
in
what to old Stubbs. But before I go to my guest, news broke to me today. You may have seen it on Twitter or on Facebook. Granaries have said they're closing, have announced that they're closing. One of our very few black clubs that we have, an iconic black club as well. Would you feel about that?
To be fair, you know, it was definitely a club which defined quite a few people's raving, from the free floor thing, from when obviously Clem, may so rest in peace, say out, and Sonia taking over. Big up to Sonia. And she's done a great job of trying to provide a safe space for everybody, really. I mean, as much as we say it's a black club, a lot of my white friends been shocking out at the top, dancing to the dancehall, to the hip hop. You know, I had the opportunity to play there a few times, so it is quite a massive loss, you know, for the community of Croydon itself.
And they also owned Ezekiel's down in Peckham, where
Yeah.
a lot of us had a lot of fun there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Played at Ezekiel's as well. Had some great nights
East.
down at Ezekiel's.
an institution for all of us, DJs past. We've all played there 35 years. You know, I think I think it's served its time. I do believe it was going to close after New Year's Eve anyway. But with COVID, it's just speeded up the whole thing. A sad loss. Hopefully, there's someone out there that can create a new club, a new granaries and a new scene, and can have it there for the community to have events for the next 35 years. You know,
Well,
when
we've got
one
Royal
door,
Lounge, let's up that sticks around.
when one door closes, you know, there's always another two or three.
Well,
that may
let's
open.
hope so, because it's one less place for DJs to apply their trade in our community.
Yes,
It was
definitely.
iconic, man. I got to listen, give
Yeah.
credit to you know, the Rodney family. So big up to Sonia, Zach. And
Salute.
the guys.
Right. I think this is, and I say every week I come on, I say I look forward to interviewing our guests, and I do. But this one is extra special for me, especially being an old sound boy anyway, and having my own sound, and then graduating and following sound and having your own sound. There's nothing like on your sound. So we're going to talk about that today. I mean, it's an integral part of street sounds. And we're talking about providing equipment for DJs to entertain people on, from one bedroom rooms to clubs, to banqueting suites, to festivals, to warehouses, the sound system, bass, mids, tops is integral in providing that entertainment for people who go.
Sometimes they're more important than the DJ. And I'm sure you're going to hear them say this. Without us,
Far from it.
without us, nothing can't happen. You can't get no sound. How you going to hear the music? I'm sure you're going to hear this later on somewhere.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, our guests have probably sweat blood, sweat and tears and lost. They must have zeroed out their account how many times, because I know how passionate these two guys were about making sure that their sound system was the top of the top, was sounded the best. And I mean, it's just great pleasure to have these guys here today. So Set the Trend podcast is going to welcome, and we do welcome, a very warm sound boy welcome to Brendan.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for inviting me here tonight.
And this is your first interview, isn't it? So we've got to be careful with you. Right?
Yeah, just treat me gentle, you know what I mean?
Can we trip him up? We can trip him up. Yeah.
And also someone who's not only influential in the sound system scene, someone who has put on and helped a lot of DJs being able to be that step nearer to being able to collect some very important music back in the day, to be able to say they play it first, or they was playing it first, or they was breaking it. And he helped to break a culture, because that slow jams culture, swing beat and hip hop, that, you know, all that early stuff in the 90s, he was at the forefront of making sure that the street DJs got first dabs, and we'll talk about that later. Welcome, Basil.
What an introduction, Dukes. Yeah, much blessings.
I can see it's going to be fun today.
Oh, it's going to be fun today. It's going to be fun. I mean, don't you think that you deserve that kind of introduction, Basil?
Yeah, but you know me, I'm a very modest person when it comes to things like that. You know, as much as I got a lot of claim to fame, not blowing my trumpet or anything, I kind of like to keep it modest, because modest is always the best way. You know what I mean? You get further in life when you're modest.
Cool. And yeah, and we're going to talk about your sound system culture, but you also still DJ now with DJ Ratty.
Yep.
So you're part of the
still doing
family.
that. Yep. Still definitely doing that. Still in the industry after at least 30 odd years, still moving and grooving. Not so much on hands as what I used to be, but still a passion. Still a passion.
I'm going to love to get into your story. Brendan. Was it nearly 40 years? You don't look it. You don't look it.
We're talking 35 plus, but not the 40.
Not the 40.
Not the 40 yet.
You're not owning the 40, no? So, Brendan, I'll start with you first.
Okay.
Soundboy question. What was the first piece of sound equipment that you owned?
Was a little microphone mixer, to be fair. You know what I mean? And what I used to do is I actually used my dad's amplifiers, his stereo amplifiers. I used to use his boxes. You know what I mean? Because I just said, like, he used to build his own stuff, so that's what I used to use when I first started playing out.
Was your dad a sound man?
No, he wasn't, but my dad was into his music. You know what I mean? He was just definitely into his music and that. You know what I mean? So, I said, we used to go to the record shop. I used to follow him as well to the record shop. And yeah, when we go there, like we used to go to Sound City in Lewisham. Back in the day.
Lee Sound City.
Cross, yeah?
Yeah. No, Lewisham.
Oh,
On the market.
yep, in the
with
market.
Winston Groovy, was it? He used to own it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we used to go shopping in there, and I mean, I was always into the music and intrigue. You know what I mean?
So what made you graduate from? Because you wasn't a DJ though, was it? Were you ever a DJ first?
No, I wasn't a DJ. No, I was more into the sound. I was just intrigued with like when we back in the days, the old gramophones with the old valve. When I used to see those light up in the back, and I was just intrigued. You know what I mean? What's it doing? And listening to the sound, I was just a buzz, and I had the feeling for sound. You know what I mean?
So what made you then? What was the moment that made you say, "I'm going to build your own sound"?
just I think listening to like when we used to go to my uncle's parties, you know, like back in the days, and they were in the basement parties and used to see.
Shubins.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. Try not to show my age, yeah, but you only used to see their little console with the little lights on it and everything else. And I said, yeah, man, that's what I want to do. I want to do the sound. You know what I mean? I want to be sound man. That's me. You know what I mean?
So Basil, when was your first? When was the moment that you said, I'm going to ask you about the first piece of equipment that you bought, but when was the first moment that you said, I'm going to start to build? Because that's what we talked back in the day. Start to build my own sound system.
I started building my sound system when I was still in school. I had that passion from school. I literally basically was playing when the school used to have the school parties, you know, at the end of the year. I used to bring my little bit of equipment. I already had a case. I already had a coffin with 12 inches in it because I used to buy my music in Brixton in the market every single week. So I was kind of like one of the guys at school that was definitely into his sound system business from then.
But what got you into it? Where did you go? What did you see that you said, you know what, I want my own sound? Especially at that young age.
At that young age, I would say it's like the big man sounds, the Coxswains, you know what I mean? The Saxons, Soprano Bees. It was them kind of man, that kind of, you know, when I used to be able to venture out and go and see them guys play, I used to like the feeling of the sound. It was a feeling that I loved about sound system. As much as the music was nice, it was how the sound felt. And that's what kind of drew me into being a guy that said, yeah, I need to be able to accomplish what these guys accomplish and do even better. Because it's all right being in the ghetto, but you need to branch out. You know what I mean? These guys always used to play in their own hoods. They never really ventured out. Whereas I kind of wanted to be a man that ventured everywhere.
International.
Wherever I could put my sound and bring it, I'd definitely bring it there.
So what was your first piece of equipment?
I bought an amp in West One. Ooh, I think it must have been early 80s. That was my first, and it was just a regular stereo amp, but it's one of them amps that had power in it.
What was the make? Do you remember?
I think it was called Rotel.
Rotel, yeah, remember Rotel? They did the equalizers, didn't they?
Yeah,
I remember back in the day.
Yeah. I bought that, and then in the same shop, I think I bought a mixer as well. So I bought the amp and a mixer.
From what money? From what money? Was it? No, I've got to ask that because obviously it wasn't cheap. It was never.
I was working back then, G. I was working back then. I used to work in West One, selling. Used to sell material. I used to work for a fashion company called Frank Asher's, which is really still going now. So I was always in the West End, earning my bucks and enjoying life in West One.
Lucky for some,
I spent a lot of years in West One, so hence the reason why I got into the music as well, which obviously we're gonna come back to the other side. I used to do a lot of shopping there, but yeah, that's where I bought my first two pieces of equipment.
So you didn't start with the family techniques system.
Nah.
That's how I started.
Well, you know what? If you want to even go that far back, I was playing music on my dad's blue spot back in the days when I was proper young. You know, I used to play his records and just stack them up on the thing there and just make them play. And back in the day, no one can't even argue. Blue spot used to sound like a proper sound because the speakers that they had. They were just all-round speakers, but they used to shake up your front room. You know, my mum's mantelpiece used to be shaky, and the cabinet with all the precious things. So from even back then, just the sound,
You kind of answered my question. You know, I was going to say, you know, what do you prefer, tops, middle, or bass?
I've always been a bass man.
But from your saying it was shaking the room, we can see.
Yeah, but every sound person
but,
I know,
obviously, but I used to love my mids, but bass has always got.
Yeah, I was always lured by the bass and trying to see how much I could turn it up.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and
well, we're going to go into that. I'm sure we're going to talk about that in a bit. You know what I want to ask you guys? So this is not a trick question, and I want you to be as honest as you can as possible, remembering that this has been a long time ago. So. Official Secret Act and everything. You can't get charged for this. You know what I mean, you can't get nicked for this question. Yeah. So Basil, Did you ever used to thief wood to make your speaker boxes?
Oh my days, that's a question.
Misappropriate
Did I
it.
ever did I you think you know what? I think my first boxes. You know what? I don't think I had to, but I think I did steal them. The only reason why I say I didn't have to, because I could have obviously have asked my old man at the time because he's a carpenter. But I said, you know what? Man, I think one like a man, you can't go asking father, yeah, build a sound. You get me? So if you're gonna build a sound, you have to come with your stuff and make your dad build it for you. So I think I did kind of maybe
You did borrow a piece of wood from somewhere.
off a few shop fronts and that lot.
I don't know some man back in the day never, you know.
Or you know them estate, you know, back in the day used to have the building sites with the big sheets of wood outside. Yeah, I think that's it.
B?
Well, I can categorically say, yeah. I was one of them. I think we actually, where my cousin used to live, he had the council flats behind the back. So where they used to use the old shuttering wood to board up, we'd be over there in the evening, we'd be pulling them down, you know what I mean? And bringing, because his garden went into the back, so we just slide it over and we build the boxes in my cousin's house, you know what I mean?
Because this is the thing, because like Sam and them used to take wood, DJs used to take the milk crates.
Milk crates.
Yeah. Remember that we used to go and take the milk crates. You know what I mean? So if you're a proper sound man, there'll always be that kind of story there. So your dad used to help you as well build your.
That's correct. Yeah, later on, yeah, because I used to have a sound before I got more into what we was doing, like the hiring. But later on, my father used
What
to
was your original sound name thing, please?
Spectre.
Right, Spectre.
Yeah.
Don't think you're getting away with them all, man. Then, you know what I mean? Everyone's getting a check.
Yeah, yeah. I used to have my first sound was like a lovers rock sound. You know what I mean? So I used to have that with my cousin. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, Jazzy J used to be my mic man. You know what I mean? Sean.
Yeah.
From way back then. And yeah, later on, as I said, my father used to build the boxes for me. You know what I mean? Like I'll get the design because you used to get a magazine. You know what I mean? All the designs. So I tell him what I want, and he'll build it there. You know what I mean? Because he was a busman. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what has happened. I tell him what I want, any amount I want, but the only condition I had to go outside and help him.
What type of bass box was you building at the time?
I think I built W bins actually. You know what I mean? W bins.
W bins. So can you explain describe a bit what they look like, please?
Put it this way, you don't see the speaker in them. They're just horn loaded, so they're loaded from the back of the box. So all you see is a couple of portholes.
Sound job.
Do you want me to get technical?
We go because this is a sound system.
This is the sound system. Yeah.
And there's people probably at home now that are thinking about.
Yeah, because as I said, like that's what we used to make. You know what I mean? Back in them days, we used to build a box before them time. You just build a box together and put it together and that's it. You know what I mean? Put a couple of speakers in it. You know what I mean? But as I said, nowadays things are so different now. You know what I mean? So
you guys are causing a storm already, and obviously, like Ray said, first time we're going live.
For only 15 minutes.
For 15 minutes, just to sort time. Hi to a couple of people who are interacting. Wayne Surreds, you've also got Tony, you've got Leroy, Susan Cousins who's watching, saying good evening. Courtney says Brendan, King is the man. That's what he's saying. Somebody says Basil, you still owe me for some 12-inch back in the day. Says Reggie.
Same thing you said when I walked through the door, innit? Exactly the same thing you said when I walked through the door, mate. They won't let me go when it comes to music. Are you serious?
So Basil, your old man used to help you build your sound as well?
Yeah, he did. But back then, obviously, he wasn't a craftsman as regards sound building of boxes. I used to basically did what Brendan done, just got the dimensions and just told him to pull it together, and he put it together. But the first of his boxes he built for me were basically, I was that young, about 17, 18. So they were just basic boxes with 15 inches in them. And you know how much parties I played? No, just regular boxes, old time, like, you know, back in the day, just flat front, hole in the bottom, you know, like house party, old time house party speakers, but they were big, obviously. So I had two of them, and I played at the most parties, just like after leaving school. It's just like, and then from there it just spiraled, literally.
How many people was in your sound?
I started off as a one-man show. So it was really me And I used to obviously have a few mates that used to help me, like my school friends when we were playing out, because a lot of the parties we were doing back then were school friends parties in the States and all that. So you don't know the lifting up of boxes. It all came into play, you know what I mean? But it was good at them time. Obviously, it's excitement, and you know, you're bringing in the sound. I used to play the music as well, so it was a mixture of everything. You had the sound man and the DJ playing the music, literally one man all night. So I did a lot of parties where I literally just played me one from about 10 o'clock until 7, 6. Maybe, you know what I mean? You've got to have the odd break to go toilet and all that. And man, we're just, you know, you already queued up the tune. Just tell them, man, just touch that button, I'll be back soon.
Single decks or double? So you were single decks at the time?
Nah,
Or double decks?
I had double decks back then.
Hold on a minute.
No, but my first decks were Gerard. So I had the original direct drive.
Oh, okay.
With the, I'm saying that same sound that I bought back then. It was just everything. Because I was saying the work and all that just made it all come together. And it was, them times was really nice because it was just entertainment. And people used to love the fact that your school friend is playing at your party. And you know what I mean? Just that interaction between your friends and you as a sound man. You kind of just, you know, just everything just blew up, really. Blew up. So that's where my first vibes come from.
What about your first sound? Was it double decks or single deck?
No, mine was single deck actually.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I used to have a Garrard deck as well.
Garrard, boy.
Yeah.
For people who don't know about Garrard, put it this way: you couldn't do Grandmaster Flash on the Garrard. These are original heavyweight turntables.
Yeah. So that's what I first started off with, and I said with me, there was 4 of us in the sound. You know, when I first started, and that's mainly cousins and a couple of friends now. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we used to play out. But as I said, we was doing like Lovers Rock them days, but you know what I mean? So, yeah. They used to be good. Them days were the good days, you know what I mean? The fun days, you know?
Right. So I think at that point, we're going to cut you lot off. So if you want to hear more about Basil and Brendan, and we ain't even touched on the fact that Basil must have supplied the whole of London DJs, street sound DJs. We need to touch on that. We're going to touch on that. But you got to like, subscribe our YouTube channel, Set the Trend Podcast. Go to it, subscribe, and when this episode comes out, you will get it firsthand and you'll hear the whole hour story. So, Brendan, sound systems. Of the sound system.